The Chinese car race is coming back after being gone for 5 whole years, because of the virus problem that the country had to deal with. Most people in the racing world are super excited about this, but there are some big problems that could cause trouble for all the racing teams. They're doing a new sprint race style in China, and the 2022 rule cars will drive on the Chinese track for the very first time. We might see weird issues that will mostly be about how fast the tires wear out on the race cars, and more importantly, how can Ferrari use this situation to do better than everyone else? One of the biggest questions people are asking before the Chinese race is about how different the cars are now compared to the ones that raced there last time in 2019. The difference is that the tires on the race cars are bigger now. According to a guy named Fred Vassar, there are problems that every team on the track will probably have, but this might actually be good news for Ferrari, because they're really good at taking care of their tires on tracks like Japan and Australia, where tire wear was a huge worry for all the other teams. Adding more to this topic, Vassar said, "I think this weekend will be a tough one, but if it's tough for everybody, then we'll all be in the same boat. The biggest question for me will be the road surface because of how the track is laid out. We know most people know that the biggest question for me is exactly the road surface, and probably compared to the last time we raced here, we'll have colder weather. We don't know how rough the road surface is. This will be super important for the weekend. Also, what's kind of tricky with the sprint race style in China is that with the current tire choices and only one practice session, they have to pick a car setup that they're stuck with based on what happens on Friday. Being able to guess what happened during the weekend is really important. Of course, this is something Ferrari has been really good at in the last few races, mostly because they've been able to get their car working perfectly. Unlike Red Bull, who has been struggling with tire wear, Ferrari showed their advantage at Suzuka, which is one of the hardest tracks on tires, by being way ahead of Ferrari, even though the Italian team didn't bring any new car parts, while the Austrian team has moved toward their cool new design that was mostly copied from Mercedes' zero-pod design. And in a weekend where both teams aren't expected to bring upgrades, people think Ferrari will do pretty well since a lot of things have changed from the last time they raced here in 2019. Even Red Bull has said they're worried about how competitive Ferrari might be. When talking more about this topic, Helmut Marko went on to point out the same problems that Vassar was kind of scared of, but Ferrari might be better at managing their tires. Explaining more about this, Marko said, "I hope we don't have any surprises like in Australia. The road was so rough there. We were also completely wrong about how fast the tires would wear out, which is something we're normally really good at." These words were repeated by Christian Horner, who admitted that Ferrari has been doing really well in the past few races, and went on to say, "We've seen that Ferrari was very competitive in Melbourne, but also at Suzuka. I think with those long turns and a track kind of like Australia, Ferrari will be fast." But what Ferrari needs to understand here is that even though they've gotten way better in some areas like tire management, their one-lap speed has gotten much worse in Suzuka, and that's one of the main reasons why they couldn't start higher up on the starting grid, maybe even in the front row. This is a problem that Leclerc will be working on really hard in the coming time, before the Chinese race. The driver from Monaco said that he spent 3 days in the practice simulator, trying to get the tires to the right working temperature for a single fast lap. Of course, Leclerc is known as one of the best drivers out there when it comes to qualifying, so the fact that he needs to get better here is pretty weird if you think about it. But as Sainz said, once Leclerc sets his mind on something he needs to improve at, he might not talk to you for days or weeks until he gets it done. Adding to the recent problems that have come up for Ferrari because of their one-lap speed problems, as well as the fact that everyone will have 2 qualifying sessions this week, one for the sprint race and one for the main race. Leclerc went on to say, "I've spent 3 days working in the practice simulator to learn how to get the tires up to the right temperature. There will be 2 qualifying sessions and 2 races with lots of points available, so I have to be ready. No one likes to come in second place. I want to win." Leclerc's huge challenge will also be beating the good streak that his teammate Sainz has going. But right now the main focus is on getting used to driving on a track that hasn't been visited in 5 years. And on top of that, the cars have gone through huge changes. Even if you were to look at what happened when Formula One last came to China, you'd be shocked. It was Leclerc's first season with Ferrari. Verstappen had only 5 wins to his name, and Norris, Albon and Russell were all in their first seasons, while Hamilton had 5 championships behind his name. And on top of all of this, it's the first sprint weekend of the season where the drivers would have only 1 hour of free practice before they lock in their car setups for the sprint qualifying. And this is one of the main problems that could hurt Red Bull's performance as they're going into the Chinese race, with a big worry that there could be a huge change in who's fastest. Now that Ferrari have slowly but surely started to show their cards when it comes to tire management. When talking more about this topic, Verstappen asked some very important questions about whether or not it's a smart thing to have your first sprint weekend on a track that you haven't been to in 5 years, adding more, "Yeah, it's very smart to do that," Verstappen said in a sarcastic way. "I think it's not great, let's say it like that, to do it, because when you've been away from a track for quite a while, I think you never know what you're going to experience, right? so it would have been better to have a normal race weekend there. But on the other hand, it probably makes things more exciting, and that's maybe what they would like to say. But yeah, purely from a driving and performance point of view of the sport, I don't think it's the smartest thing to do. Now, the temperatures of the track are also worrying the drivers and the teams because of the time of year when the Chinese race is held, and the cold road will have a lot to say about how the tires will work in the turns and whether or not there'll be enough grip for on-time braking and not losing too much time while doing so. Also, it seems like the drain holes, which have been quite popular for all the wrong reasons in the past, have been brought up as a concern here in China again, when talking about the possible problems from the upcoming race. Sergio Perez went on to say, "Yeah, I just hope there are no issues with the track, with any drain holes or any problems like that will just throw us off our game. But I think for the show it's probably good." However, from the getting ready side, it's going to definitely be a race that's going to be really hard because I've never raced there with Red Bull, so it's going to be quite a lot to do in a single practice session. What this possibly which shows is that Perez might not feel the best when it comes to pushing the car to its absolute limit, considering the fact that he's one of the few drivers that is going into this race weekend with a team he's never raced with before, a problem that many of the experienced drivers like Bottas and Gasly would have to deal with as well. Nonetheless, there are quite a few expectations that need to be met from a lot of teams on the grid, and although it's obvious that Red Bull holds the advantage because of their race pace dominance, the close technical rules, as well as the huge improvements Ferrari have made before even bringing an upgrade to their car, show that this season is anything but over. With all this in mind, do you think that there is a chance for Ferrari to surprise Red Bull in a pure racing way because of their predicted advantage with tire management? And more importantly, do you think that they can carry this good momentum to Miami and Imola, where they're set to bring the first and biggest upgrade package on their car and finally take the car to the expected level of race wins and championship battles? Let us know in the comments down below.